Ladies and gents, boys and girls, welcome Tuesday, July the 11th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. We are live here on the Daily Crow here on this Tuesday, July the 11th. Let's see. We got a packed show for you. I see Brendan M., Travi, Xavier, Braddock, Ethan. What is going on? Appreciate you all tuning in. Also, those in the Big Cock Club Discord. Head over to the TDC Questions channel, the TDC Questions channel. Be sure your questions are answered there. Again, we got an exciting show, a lot to get into. Of course, in our third hour, we have our Q&A Power Hour, where I want to hear from each and every single one of you, your questions, your comments, and your calls at 843-790-3377. Of course, guys, if you cannot call in that third hour, we do have the voicemail line up and available. You can leave us a voicemail at that same number, and we will play that voicemail in the third hour. In the meantime, submit your questions via YouTube, text, whatever you prefer. In our second hour, we got my good friend JC Sherbert of the Big Spur. He will join us in what should be an electric conversation because, of course, guys, due to the July 4th holiday and travel and everybody kind of doing their own thing, we have not spoken to JC in a little bit. Actually, it was Friday. Look at me. I'm not even remembering what day it is because of the July 4th holiday and what have you. But JC Sherbert joins us, and I think it's a really interesting time, though, because I'm starting to see some panic amongst Gamecock Nation, even in the Big Cock Club when it comes to recruiting. So really excited to talk recruiting with JC, get his full thoughts on everything, and is there reason for South Carolina fans to hit the panic button? Gamecocks class is now ranked 17th in the 24/7 top 25 class ranking. So we'll talk that. We'll also talk predictions. We'll talk SEC media days and everything in between. Going to be a lot of fun. Got that. Also, guys, of course, all of our topics in the first hour, as for some reason the dog downstairs is going crazy. Oh, well, it is what it is. Olive, stop. Look at that. Mid-show, I got to shut the dogs up. Either way, they'll bark at anything, man. It's crazy. Either way, we got a packed show for you. We're continuing to talk Gamecocks offense on the show today. Really excited for that. Again, guys, appreciate each and every single one of you. Also, and Brennan M says, no, there isn't. No, there isn't what? Oh, about recruiting. Okay, I was like, what are you talking about? Also, guys, it is South Carolina Day on SEC Network. You may see the Gamecocks takeover on SEC Network. I think the most notable games, South Carolina, Tennessee, and South Carolina, Clemson, will be re-aired today. The Tennessee game at 4 o'clock and the Clemson game at 9 o'clock, which will be really cool. I've told you guys before, the SEC Network stuff, it's something I recall when they first did the takeover, guys, when SEC Network launched, like, what was it, August 1st or something like that of 2014. But they did the SEC Network takeover then. That was the first time. And they played, like, old games that you could never find. Like, they played a SEC tournament baseball game from 2003 for South Carolina when they won the SEC tournament. They played some old football games. I feel like now with, like, they're playing all these current events, which is totally fine. I get it. But it's like, you can go to YouTube and watch every single event practically that they are airing. So, not to burst the bubble, not to be Debbie Downer, but it's like I feel like the SEC takeover has lost a little bit of its luster and would gain some of that back if they were able to go into the archives. And even if the game's on YouTube, play some games like we haven't seen in forever. Play some games that, we forgot about or we don't really recall or don't watch all that much, and play those instead of the ones that are readily available on YouTube. Anyways, that's my rant on the SEC Network takeover stuff. Really fun either way, though, anytime the Gamecocks are featured primarily on SEC Network. So again, guys, appreciate you all tuning in. Like I mentioned, Q&A Power Hour in hour number 3. JC Sherbert in hour number 2. In hour number 1, we got my topics we're going to get into. We count down the days, continue to SEC Media Days in Nashville, Tennessee, next week. Guys, again, be prepared to roll with the punches next week because TDC will not air noon to 3. Okay? It's also not just going to be Monday through Friday. Thursday, ironically enough, the day that Shane Beamer and company will speak, there will be no TDC because we will be traveling. It's about a 6.5-hour drive from where I am to Nashville. So probably won't even get home from Nashville till about 10 o'clock Eastern on Thursday night. But we will go live on Friday right here, normal time, as I will recap, break down my full experience at SEC Media Days, but most importantly, Shane Beamer, Spencer Rattler, Tonka Hemingway, Kai Kroger, and everything that they had to say at SEC Media Days on Thursday. So, again, the schedule is going to be kind of weird. We're going to go live Sunday night, by the way, to make up for it. So, TDC will operate Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday nights, and then Friday at the normal time. And I don't have a concrete time set for those nights, guys. You're going to have to, again, be rolling with the punches because there are a lot of events at SEC Media Days. There's like media dinners or what have you, receptions, if you will, which will be a lot of fun. But that means we may not even go live till like 9 or even 10 o'clock Central, which apparently I just learned time zones yesterday is going to be about 10 or 11 o'clock Eastern. So there's going to be some late nights. Of course, also, guys, the podcast is going to drop at 5 a.m. Eastern time, Monday through Thursday. And then on Friday, we'll go back to our normal schedule where it will drop at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So again, I know you guys will roll with the punches, and I truly do appreciate the flexibility for you guys rocking. Again, I see my guy Eric Reese. What's going on? Robbie Davis, John Edward, Chase, GA, Brendan, Travis, Xavier, Braddock, Ethan. Yeah, somebody said rally puppies. Yeah, I think they know because I believe right now, if I recall correctly on the SEC network, it is the replay of South Carolina LSU in that game one. So I think the rally puppies must sense. They must know that Gamecocks baseball's on the tube, and they're like, all right, time for me to step up to the plate. But that's not the case. Either way, guys, again, appreciate you all tuning in. We're going to go ahead and get right into it. And like I mentioned yesterday, I gave you all the positives, right? We got that all out of the way when it comes to this Gamecocks offense. My 5 reasons why I felt like they could be better and take a step forward in this 2023 football season. Well, now the pendulum swings the other way. It's time to talk about the doom and gloom negative side. Here are my 5 reasons. And not even trying to be doom and gloom, guys, be negative, but these are real concerns, real questions that could go the other way. Like we mentioned, guys, not everything is going to work out the way we expect. Some things are going to work out better than we expect, and then some are going to be right in the middle. So today we're going to talk about my 5 reasons why I could see the Gamecocks offense taking a step back and being worse in the 2023 football season. At number 1 for me, inconsistencies continue for Spencer Rattler. They plagued him last year for about 75 or 80% of the 2022 season. Decision-making, we know, is something where Spencer Rattler needs to make strides, right? Too many times last year did Rattler try to force the ball into coverage, trust his arm too much. And as I mentioned yesterday, and I'll repeat myself, I really genuinely do feel that the Clemson game at the end of last season, not the Tennessee game, because that was a perfect performance, and I don't think that's one that you can expect to be replicated over and over and over again. But it's the Clemson game from last year that stands out to me as that is Spencer Rattler to a T. He's going to give you a lot of good, but he is going to give you some really, really bad that frustrates the heck out of you, right? The interception in the red zone. I mean, if South Carolina, guys, if the Gamecocks lose that game, that's all we're talking about all offseason. All that back-breaking interception, all that pick six, all this, that decision, this decision, whatever. But you have to live with that because of all the good that he provides. But if the inconsistencies continue, if Spencer Rattler has not made that growth, if we see more of the same from last year where, he is operating in a confused manner, he is forcing the football when he's locking in on his target, or when his number 1 target, a.k.a. Juice Wells, isn't open, he's forcing it anyways. Or he's making decisions late. He's getting the football out late. We've talked to a couple of people who know a thing or two about ball, and they talk about Spencer Rattler was just late with the football. A lot of times he was late with the football. He was so locked in on his number one option, and by the time he got off of him and look, it's too late. Too late. The DBs in the SEC are too good. Has Spencer Rattler taken that step? Has he shored that up? Has he cleaned that up? Has he risen his floor? If not, if the inconsistencies continue, if the turnovers for him continue, right? We talked a lot about turnovers yesterday. If the turnovers continue for Spencer Rattler, it could lead to, and he doesn't have, let's say, that run like he had at the end of last season, that could lead to this offense taking a step back, especially when you think about that the pressure was on 7 last year, right? I talked about it, in the preseason of last year that, hey, this team's going to go as far as 7 takes them. I'm doubling and tripling down on that this year because with what the running game looks like, the offensive line woes, just being realistic, a lot of the success of the offense this season, it's going to fall on 7. It's going to fall on Spencer Rattler. So is he able to raise his floor and be more consistent? If he is not, I could see it leading to this offense regressing this fall. My second reason why I could see the Gamecocks offense being worse and taking a step back in 2023, Dowell Loggins isn't the upgrade we hoped for. It is very popular right now to throw Marcus Satterfield under the bus and blame him solely for all of the struggles a season ago. And I am most certainly not sitting here today defending swing pass Sat. I'm not doing it, right? He was a bum. He was no good. Nebraska, he's your problem. But just how much of an upgrade is Dowell Loggins going to be? And we talk about it all the time, guys. Coaches, they get too much of the credit when things go well, and they get too much of the credit when things go poorly. It's more about the Jimmies and Joes. So when you look at last year's offense compared to this year's, yes, this is the second year of Spencer Rattler. Yes, it's the second year of Juice Wells. But when you compare the running back situation, when you compare the offensive line, when you think about the loss of Jaheim Bell, how much better are the Jimmies and Joes? How much better is this year's offense really than last year's? And I just wonder, are we going to find out early on, hey, Dowell Loggins, he's not a magician. His scheme isn't all of a sudden the greatest thing ever. This guy isn't the second coming of Steve Spurrier. He's not able to scheme around these deficiencies. He's not able to scheme around this and, hit the ground running like maybe we thought South Carolina would do after the Tennessee and the Clemson games. Excuse me. I think most just assume that there's nowhere to go it up because Marcus Satterfield was so terrible. He was so bad. But let's not avoid it, right? The uncertainty around what Dowell Loggins is, we have no idea, guys. Never called a play at the collegiate level, not just Power 5, not just SEC. And Marcus Satterfield was a guy, hey, guess what? When he was hired, there were high hopes for him too. And he was another guy, had never called a play at the Power 5 level. Dowell Loggins has never even called a play at the collegiate level. And the only time he spent time calling plays, he was no good. In fact, he was labeled the worst offensive coordinator in the NFL. These are not opinions I am stating to you. These are facts. These are facts, ladies and gentlemen. This is not my opinion of Dowell Loggins. I am just presenting to you what the resume says. Now, what the resume also says, he spent 2 years at Arkansas under Kendall Briles, and he is Shane Beamer's handpicked guy based off of everything that we know. But to call the Dowell Loggins hire anything but a risk and a gamble would be inaccurate because this is not a guy with a proven track record. And there were guys out there, I won't mention them by name, but there were guys out there who did have a proven track record who South Carolina apparently did not entertain the idea of going after. If Dowell Loggins turns out not to be the upgrade that South Carolina hoped they were getting. If Dowell Loggins ends up doing more of the same from what we've seen the previous 2 years, because, guys, we all know they're not reinventing the wheel. They're not reinventing the offense. They're going to do a lot of the same things. Is Dowell Loggins ready for that? Is Dowell Loggins? And also, guys, here's something we don't know that a lot of folks aren't talking about. What befuddled us about Marcus Satterfield more than anything? It wasn't when he was on script his first 10, 15 plays, although those were terrible as well. It was that in-game play calling when you have to go off script, and instinct, for lack of a better way of putting it, takes over. And it's like you either have it or you don't. Are you instinctually a good play caller or not? We don't know what Dowell Loggins is yet, guys. He might be the next coming of Steve Spurrier. He also could be very similar to Marcus Satterfield. We just don't know. What happens when you get in pressure situations, late in games, you're off script, and you got to call some ball plays? Then what? And if Dowell Loggins turns out to not be that guy, I say he's working with arguably even less of a deck than he had last year. If he's not an immense upgrade from Marcus Satterfield, I don't know that this offense takes the next step. I could even see them regressing this season. My third reason why I feel the Gamecocks offense could be worse or take a step back this fall. Simply put, guys, the offensive line. And the offensive line woes continuing. South Carolina last year finishing outside of the top 100 in rushing offense, surrendering 31 sacks for the second consecutive season. And, guys, you know what makes me cringe when I talk about this? I mean, there are reasons to point to why this is actually going to happen. South Carolina returns, and again, we'll get into position unit previews, and we're going to dive into the offensive line. I'm going to give a grade for the offensive line. Brace yourselves, ladies and gents. But you return 50 less starts than you had a season ago, and you lose Jalen Nichols, your best offensive lineman for the year. I mean, guys, you are relying on transfers up front from Yale, Charlotte, Western Illinois, and Mercer. And then you got a bunch of other guys who, you know, some of them have played. A good number have played, but they haven't played well. They have not played well. Then you got Marquis Anderson, who's a true freshman. You're going to ask a true freshman to slide in the SEC? Good luck. It doesn't matter what you have at quarterback, what you have at receiver, how you upgraded at tight end. Somebody is a surprise at running back. If the offensive line isn't up to par, and there are reasons to believe it could take a step back even from last year. If that happens, this offense undoubtedly takes a step back this year. Undoubtedly, guys. Because there are many things you can scheme around, you can get around. Heck, I talked about it all preseason. Marcus Satterfield has no excuse. He's got a scheme around a bad offensive line. That's much easier said than done, though, giving all credit to these coaches. That is much easier said than done. If you can't get a push in the running game, it makes you one-dimensional. Defense is able to pin their ears back. Spencer Rattler's under duress. This offense will take a step back this year. My fourth reason why I could see the Gamecocks offense being worse and taking a step back this fall: no reliable weapons on the outside other than Juice Wells emerge. Who is wide receiver 2, guys, going in this season? That's a question mark. We know what we got in Juice Wells. One of the best, if not the best playmaker in the SEC. Who else? Because you know who else knows that? Defensive coordinators. Every defensive coordinator you're going to go up against. They all know that. Let's take Juice Wells away. Well, then what? What's your second pitch? Is it Trey Knox? Is it Xavier Legette? Is it Amarian Brown? Is it Nicholas Harbor? Is it Eddie Lewis? Is it Joshua Simon? Is it one of your running backs? Who is it? And I think there's reason to believe, we'll get in this later in the show, there's reason to believe that one, if not more than that, of those guys will step up. But if they don't, South Carolina has struggled with this over the last couple of years. Having one feature guy and then a bunch of just okay options out there, right? Somebody else has got to step up to take the pressure off of Juice Wells. If they do not, it could lead to a very long season because, again, you're putting all this pressure on one guy. Defenses are going to scheme around him. They're going to bracket him. They're going to double him. They're going to take him away. And then you've got to have something else. Someone's got to step up to take that pressure off of Juice Wells so he can be the best version of himself. If it does not happen, if it's Juice Wells all alone to carry the load, he won't have the best version of his season that he could potentially have, and this offense could even regress in the 2023 season. My fifth and final reason why I think the Gamecocks offense could be worse this fall. RB1 remains a mystery all season. I think most of us are expecting a running back by committee approach, which there's nothing that says that cannot work. But there may be no bigger question mark than the running back position for South Carolina. You've got Juju McDowell, who I think we'd all agree is a scat back. You've got Mario Anderson, a D2 transfer from Newberry. You've got Dontavius Braswell, a true freshman, 4-star signee, but a true freshman. And then the Kerryon Joyner, who has played quarterback, played wide receiver, and is just now transitioned to running back in the spring. And I think those are the four guys you realistically look at as your potential impact guys this year. Does someone emerge out of that group? The Kerryon Joyner could be very serviceable. Juju McDowell in his own right could be serviceable. Mario Anderson could be serviceable. Dontavius Braswell, with his talent and his upside, could be serviceable. But is there a RB1 in that room? I said this a couple of weeks ago, a little over a month ago, and I'll say it yet again, guys. I felt so strongly that South Carolina was going to pick somebody up from the portal because you don't have a SEC caliber RB1. And you know what? It's not even like a slight, because some people are going to say, how dare you say that about the Kerryon Joyner? It's not a slight or disrespect to him, guys. The Kerryon Joyner shouldn't have to ask to move to running back, if you want my honest opinion. The fact you were not able to go out and get anybody, get any sort of proven Power 5 ball carrier. Because I think what you have right now, you got a bunch of RB2s and RB3s, but you don't have an RB1. Not a SEC caliber RB1. I'm talking about a guy, your bell cow running back. And you can say what you want about Marshawn Lloyd, but when healthy, he had proven to be that guy. He had proven to be that player. But now you don't even have that. And so if the running back position, if no one emerges, if nobody steps up, and it's already, guys, think about how much higher quality they're going to have to be behind the offensive line they're running behind. I mean, it's already tough. It's already tough sledding for a guy in the SEC. Behind that O-line, if that O-line doesn't take a massive step forward, the rushing attack could be in for a very long season. So if South Carolina is not able to find an RB1, if that remains a mystery, this offense most certainly could become one-dimensional and take a step back in 2023. So again, guys, my 5 reasons why I see the Gamecocks offense or why they could take a step back this fall. Inconsistencies for Rattler. Dowell Loggins not the upgrade we hope for. Offensive line woes continue. No reliable weapons outside of Juice emerges. And RB1 remains a mystery all season long. Guys, we're going to jump into our first break of the day. On the other side, I want to continue to keep the convo rolling here on this Tuesday. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Muscle Dougie, ho. Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Tuesday, July the 11th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Again, guys, we got Q&A Power Hour upcoming in our third hour. JC Sherbert in our second hour. Really excited for that. But in the meantime, we keep the conversation rolling, guys, talking Gamecocks offense. Do not forget, tomorrow, we begin to break down the Gamecocks defense. We'll do so tomorrow and Thursday, and then Friday we'll spend all day long talking South Carolina special teams going into the 2023 football season. But as I mentioned, the offense. What will define success for the Gamecocks offense this upcoming season, right? Year one of a new offensive coordinator. Question marks abound, but you have your quarterback back. You've got your top playmaker. There are reasons to be optimistic that South Carolina, and especially after the end of last season, after what you did showing signs of promise against Tennessee and Clemson, that you can take a massive step forward this year. So what will define success? Let's get into it. First off, for me, guys, I've talked a lot, and I will continue to do so, about the offensive line and the running game. And I am conservatively giving these expectations. These are conservative expectations. But if South Carolina can field a rushing offense inside of the top 100 nationally, that to me is a success. It is a step in the right direction in year one of Dowell Loggins. Because you think about the question marks on the offensive line itself, at the running back position. If you are able, guys, in my opinion, to take those pieces, because you think about last year, guys, it's not like every single game the running game was atrocious. It had its flashes. It's had its moments of brilliance. And a lot of times, especially in those wins, right, you went 8-4, it was just good enough, right? It's like, look at the Clemson game. It was just good enough. It wasn't all that great, but it was just good enough to keep them honest. So if you can take a step forward from that with what I think is more question marks up front, more question marks at the running back position, obviously, and you can finish inside of the top 100 nationally in rushing offense, I think that'll be a huge success for South Carolina this season. Sticking with the line of scrimmage, South Carolina finishing a season ago with 31 sacks surrendered. Less than 30 sacks, to me, will be success. Less than 30 sacks. It is unrealistic to think, I think, that you're going to make a huge jump because of the question marks on the offensive line. Also, Spencer Rattler, a guy, loves to get out of the pocket, so sometimes he makes life a little bit tough on his offensive line. But if you can surrender just less than 30 sacks, less than 30, that is the goal. That is the number. If you can do that, you help your offense move in the right direction. You help your offense take a positive step forward. And I think that will be successful for South Carolina, especially in the offensive line. What else will define success for the Gamecocks offense? Less than 20 turnovers. That's a big step from last year, but I think it's one that's absolutely necessary for South Carolina to make positive growth this season. Guys, when you have question marks like Carolina does, the last thing you can afford is turnovers. I mean, it doesn't matter if you have the best offense in the country returning. What can undo that? Turning the football over. You had 25 a season ago. We've mentioned that was the worst in the SEC. 12 interceptions, 13 fumbles. If you're able to cut that number by a third, a fourth, right? A fifth. Get to 20. Get to less than 20. If you can get to less than 20, I think you're going to set yourself up for big-time success this year. Protect the football. Good things will happen. Less than 20 turnovers. That will bring success to South Carolina. Top 50 nationally in offense. South Carolina last year, guys, believe it or not, that 32.1 points per game they scored, believe it or not, that was good enough for top 50. South Carolina, I think, finished tied 38th, something like that. But the Gamecocks were top 50. And I think, again, new offensive coordinator, offensive line questions, running game questions. If you're able to field a top 50 offense yet again in year one of a new OC, because I think that's what's so interesting on a side note, guys, is everyone is expecting immediate success from Dowell Loggins. Like, there is no grace period here, right? I mean, I don't think anybody's going to be able to say, well, we finished 75th in offense, but, it's just year one of this new OC. Nobody's okay with that. Nobody's cool with that. But realistically, it is year one of a new offensive coordinator. It is year one of a new offensive scheme to a degree. The verbiage, I'm sure, has changed up somewhat. It is year one of some new things. If you're able to finish top 50 nationally in offense, I think that'll be a success for South Carolina. And I think that'll put you in a good position to even match last year's win total or even maybe exceed it. Spencer Rattler pushes Dylan Thompson's record. I think that'll define success and would spell success for the Gamecocks offense this season. Dylan Thompson holds the all-time passing record at just over 3,500 yards. I'm not saying he's got to eclipse that, right? Because for Spencer Rattler, you do the math, get to 3,600 yards or more, he'll have to average 300 yards per game. Is that asking too much? Maybe, maybe not. When you think about what South Carolina will do, will they be 70-30 pass to run? If that's the case, there certainly is a chance that Spencer Rattler could do that. But I think as long as he's getting over that 3,000-yard mark, and I think getting close to that number, if he's getting close to that number, right up there at the tops of top seasons in Gamecocks football history, throwing the football, I think that will most certainly spell success for not just him, but this South Carolina offense as well. We know he's capable. We saw it last year, end of season. What did he throw for against Tennessee? Like 460 something? Threw for like 280 against Clemson. Like, he's very capable of that. He's capable of breaking Dylan Thompson's record. But I'm not even asking him to do that. Can he just push the record? Can he get close to the record? If he can and if he does, it'll spell huge success for South Carolina this season. Finally, guys, as we define success for the Gamecocks offense this upcoming season, South Carolina averaged 32.1 points per game a season ago. 30-plus points per game. That's all I'm asking for. 30 or more. And here's, I guess, guys, what makes this conversation difficult, right? Because last year, South Carolina averaged 32.1 points per game. But that does not factor in points aided by special teams, by defense. So if we're talking purely offensive points per game, that number looks a lot different. And it looks a lot different when you go into, okay, let's go to SEC offensive points per game. So there are a lot of layers to that. There's a lot of ways that you can break that thing down. Because who cares if you score 70 against Jacksonville State? Who cares? Who cares if you drop 100 against Furman? What does it matter? It means nothing in the grand scheme of things. But just as a blanket definition of success, with a brand new OC, with questions up front, with questions at running back, If Dowell Loggins can lead this group to 30-plus points per game, I think that will spell and that will define a successful season for the Gamecocks offense. I think you will have enough highs. That will be good enough with what you have defensively coming back, and your special teams, of course, beamer ball to the moon being a weapon for you. I think that will be enough to most likely get you back to last year's win total, if not exceeded. So again, guys, when it comes to defining success for the Gamecocks offense this upcoming season, what does that look like? A rushing offense finishing inside the top 100. Less than 30 sacks allowed. Less than 20 turnovers. Finishing top 50 nationally in offense. Spencer Rattler pushing Dylan Thompson's passing yards record for a single season. And finally, 30 or more points per game. Guys, we're going to jump into another quick break. On the other side, we'll keep the convo rolling. I will lock in my predictions for the Gamecocks 2023 offense. How will they fare in year one of Dowell Loggins? All that and more on the other side of this break. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Muscle Dougie Ho. Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Tuesday, July the 11th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. I saw Lynn Turner's comment. She said, hey, TSUS, I'm just watching South Carolina hit home runs against Paul Skeens on the SEC Network takeover. So if you're watching that as well as watching TDC, thank you all so much for tuning in, and I hope you're enjoying yourself. I cannot really see the television. I kind of can, but I don't have it on right now, believe it or not, because I'm trying to lock in, trying to focus to you guys. Again, appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Our Q&A Power Hour, and hour number 3 upcoming. JC Sherbert also at 1:15. Really excited to talk with JC to get some updates on recruiting, his thoughts on what's going on. South Carolina down to 17th in the 247 Sports recruiting rankings. Is it reason to panic? Very excited to hear what he has to say. But guys, in the meantime, we're going to keep the conversation rolling, and we're going to wrap up right now. We're in the midst of the season preview series. We will conclude talking about the Gamecocks offense in this manner as I lock in my prediction for South Carolina's 2023 offense, year 1 of Dowell Loggins. How will they fare? Let's get into it. First off, I have Spencer Rattler falling just short of Dylan Thompson's record. I think Spencer Rattler, and I expect Spencer Rattler to have a really good season. Now, I think it's going to be a season that, is filled with the highs and lows, as we talked about what you can expect from Rattler. I think he shores things up in regards to not having quite as many mind-blowing turnovers, if you will. I think that they are going to make this offense, and they have made this offense much simpler for him, much easier to process and understand. So I do not think you'll have those woes that you had last season that were due to just piss-poor scheme that Marcus Satterfield presented. However, I don't think Spencer Rattler quite hits that number to break Dylan Thompson's record. I mean, guys, he would have to average 300 yards per game. And while I like Spencer Rattler, I'm high on Spencer Rattler, there are just too many question marks right now for me to say that after this season, he's going to be South Carolina's all-time single-season passing yards record holder. So I think he has a very good year, maybe even a great year, but I think he falls just short of breaking Dylan Thompson's record. I also believe that the offensive line woes, unfortunately, will continue this season. And I think South Carolina's greatest battle, and one of the reasons why Spencer Rattler's not going to hit that number, is I think the Gamecocks are going to battle being one-dimensional all season long. Until proven otherwise, guys, I'm not a believer in this offensive line. And there's actually reason to point to, there's reason to believe this offensive line could even take a step back from last year. Like, truly, when you think about who they lost, what they returned, the injury of Jalen Nichols, and again, no disrespect to them, but you're depending on guys from Western Illinois, Yale, Charlotte, Mercer, a true freshman. You're depending on these guys. 50 less starts returning for you. That's who you're depending on for the turnaround up front. I think the offensive line woes are going to continue for South Carolina. I expect the Gamecocks to finish outside of the top 100 yet again in rushing offense. I think the sacks total will be right around that 30, 31 number that it's been the past 2 seasons. And as I mentioned, South Carolina battling being one-dimensional. I think that's where you're going to see the greatest inconsistencies, guys. I've mentioned it many times, not just on our show, but on different shows as I've appeared on radio, what have you, different podcasts. I think one of the reasons for South Carolina's inconsistencies, not just last year, 2 years ago, but over the years, is when you have the question marks up front, when you're so Jekyll and Hyde at arguably the most position unit on the field, I think that leads to the results being a mixed bag. And I think that's why South Carolina has gotten it. I think that continues this year. South Carolina is changing their program up front on both lines of scrimmage. The problem is those players are either first year on campus or they're not on campus yet. 2, 3 years from now, 3, 4 years from now, South Carolina is going to feature one of the best offensive lines in the SEC. But unfortunately, you don't have those guys yet. You've got the ones you got right now. And I think the woes will continue. I think it'll be a rough year for the Gamecocks offensive line yet again. Moving to the running back position, I think Dakereon Joyner, guys, I mean, again, this is a dude that no matter what's been asked of him, and he has not gotten a ton of opportunities, right? Let's call it for what it is. I feel like death, taxes, and Gamecock fans setting lofty expectations of Dakereon Joyner being a major factor in the offense and him barely getting any touches throughout the season. I mean, this goes all the way back to like 2020. People have been clamoring for Dakereon Joyner to touch the football more since he stepped foot on campus. And for whatever reason, it just seems to never happen. So I think if you have expectations of Dakereon Joyner being a 1,000-yard rusher, I think you're going to be disappointed. But if you have fair expectations of number 5, if you have fair expectations of what Dakereon Joyner can do, well, then I think you're in for a fun season because I think Dakereon Joyner, I think he's going to be a serviceable option for South Carolina. I'm not telling you he's going to be one of the best running backs in the SEC, but I think he'll be a serviceable option. However, I do believe it will be running back by committee all season long. I think South Carolina is going to ride the hot hand. I think the Gamecocks are going to struggle at times severely to find who that hot hand is and get the running game going. I think Montario Hardesty, this is probably his final season in Columbia. I would be stunned if he's here beyond this season. I was surprised, guys, his contract was renewed, to be totally honest with you. I'd be stunned if Montario Hardesty is employed by the University of South Carolina this time next year because the running back position during his tenure and what has not been great and what's more concerning, as many of you have voiced, is the recruiting. And that recruiting just has not been up to par. It just simply hasn't. Even JC Sherbert has voiced that on our show. So I think Dakereon Joyner will be serviceable, but I think it's going to be running back by committee. I think a bunch of guys are going to get an opportunity, and I think that's also going to contribute to the inconsistencies in the run game. But I do think Dak Joyner will have a solid year at running back. Does that mean 400 yards rushing? Does it mean 500? Does it mean 600? I have no idea, but I think he will be a serviceable option back there for South Carolina. At the wide receiver position, I believe Juice Wells will indeed eclipse 1,000 yards. He was very close last year. I think even with defenses trying to take him away, I think Juice Wells is just too good, guys. I think Juice Wells is going to get his. I believe that Juice Wells is going to have a really successful season this year for South Carolina. Also on the outside, and one of the reasons I believe that, I think Xavier Legette and Trey Knox, both players who have flashed at the collegiate level, flashed at the SEC level, but haven't had really big, impactful type of seasons yet. Even Trey Knox, guys, I mean, we love the pickup, and he's a physical specimen, but if you look at the numbers specifically, you know, his freshman year was his best year. He hasn't had over 500 yards receiving in a season in college, and guys, I've mentioned it many times, he has not had a touchdown against a Power 5 opponent since 2021, October of 2021 to be exact. I think Xavier Legette, Trey Knox have the best seasons of their collegiate careers, and I think that helps Juice Wells to, you know, get more one-on-one type matchups, get more favorable matchups, and I think he will eclipse 1,000 yards in this offense. I think some young guys will make impacts as well. Nicholas Harbor, I think that while he may not be a feature player early on, I very much so expect Nicholas Harbor to get opportunities, and I think especially the second half of the season is where you're really going to feel the Nicholas Harbor effect, in my opinion, guys. Also, I think Lenoris Sellers. I think Sellers is going to have a package, and I would not be surprised if this is a guy that at the end of the season we're looking at 5-6 touchdowns, maybe more. Maybe he can make even more of an impact. I mean, you'd love to conserve the red shirt, but hey, if he's one of your best options and you've got questions at running back and you're in those goal line, short yardage situations, I mean, we heard our good friend J.D. Pickell talk about this a couple months ago that maybe he could serve in that Tim Tebow role back in 2007 when he was a true freshman. And certainly I'm not trying to compare Lenoris Sellers to Tim Tebow, but you guys get where I'm going with that. So I do think Nicholas Harbor, Lenoris Sellers, those young guys make impacts. I think a guy like Dontavius Braswell, almost out of necessity, is going to make an impact for this Gamecocks offense. And so I do think you will see some of these young guys step up and be contributors for South Carolina this season. Now, what does it mean for the overall product? And I have not talked about Dowell Loggins. What's funny enough, guys, I did not even have him mentioned in my notes here. But let's talk about Dowell Loggins. My prediction for what the offense is going to look like and the job that Dowell Loggins will do this season. I do think the offense is going to be much simpler. They've talked about it. They've preached it over and over and over. I think they're going to stick to it. I don't think you're going to have 15-word play calls. I don't think you're going to have 21 or 22 personnel packages. I think South Carolina is committed to simplifying and putting their playmakers in the best possible position where they don't have to think, they can just play. They can go out and make plays. So I think the scheme is going to be better. I don't think it can get any worse, number one. That was horrific. At the same time, I don't think you're going to see this massive overhaul, this reinvention of the offense. And so I'll be really intrigued to see, because my prediction is this, guys. I think fans are going to be, I think disappointed is too strong of a word, but I think fans, I don't think the results are going to match the hype when it comes to Dowell Loggins and his offensive scheme. Because I think people really, truly believe that just plugging and playing in a new OC is going to fix all the problems. Guys, do you also recall we lost Freddie Kitchens from last year? Does that ring a bell? Does that have an impact on the offensive scheme? Hey, there's some folks out there who argue he was the one calling the plays in the final 2 games of the season. Does that have an impact on South Carolina offensively? I'm not sitting here telling you that Dowell Loggins is not going to be an upgrade. That's not what I'm saying. But similar to last year, where I heard all preseason long that, oh man, the Duke's Mayo Bowl, South Carolina is going to look exactly like that on offense. And literally from the opening drive against Georgia State a season ago, it set in very quickly that, wait a minute, this isn't what I was expecting. I think it's going to be very similar for Dowell Loggins. I think the results could be a little bit better, but I think people are creating this, and I understand, right? Like Shane Beamer's stock has never been higher right now. So what he says goes. So if Shane Beamer says he's our guy, he's the best, he's our fit, fans are going to take that to the bank and say he's the best thing since sliced bread. I predict the hype is going to slightly outweigh. I think folks after this season are going to look back and say, Dowell Loggins is a better offensive coordinator than Marcus Satterfield was. Absolutely 110%. But I think fans are also going to sit back and say, but with that being said, our offensive woes are not going to get fixed until the Jimmies and Joes and these offensive linemen that we're recruiting and signing, until they're ready to play and we can plug them in, this offense is going to continue to struggle. This offense is going to continue to be inconsistent. So I don't know that, there's hype around Dowell Loggins. And I'm not saying it's going to be, certainly I'm not saying it's going to be like a disappointing season. But I think for some folks who have set their expectations sky high, I think it's going to be somewhat of a mixed bag or mixed feelings, if you will, where it's like, he's an upgrade, but I'm not sure he was the upgrade that I was hoping he was, if that makes sense. But finally, guys, what does it all mean? How will South Carolina fare? You know what's really, really interesting? When I make my game-by-game predictions for South Carolina, and I'll sit back, and the scores just come to my head, right? And I go through it, make the score predictions, whatever. And I sit back, and I'm like, oh, man, I wonder, did I give the offense enough credit, the defense enough credit, what have you? This morning, I went and averaged the scores of what I predicted, and I took all of the offensive outputs that I predicted for South Carolina, and I averaged it out over the season. That average came out to be 27.2 points per game. Now, again, I go back to this point. What you have to understand is that I'm talking purely offense. I'm talking purely offensive points per game. Because South Carolina last year averaged 32.1 points per game. But if we strictly just did offensive points per game, that number's significantly lower. So, just going off what we know, what we can talk about, what we can dissect. 27.2 points per game is where I had South Carolina in my game-by-game predictions, if you average out all those totals. And ironically enough, I tell you guys, for my prediction for the Gamecocks offense, I'll go with 27.2 points per game. I feel pretty good with that number. I do. Because I think South Carolina, and it's weird, because here's what I'll say is this. That's offensively. The total points per game may be better. But I think with the question marks, with the likelihood that you'll be one-dimensional for a lot of the season with a brand new OC, with the inconsistencies of Spencer Rattler, that feels right to me. Looking back over the scores, 27.2 points per game feels right to me. So even if it's not that number, I think South Carolina will be high 20s. I think they could get the upward 20s close to 30 points per game. I don't think they exceed that. So all in all, I think year one of Dowell Loggins is a success, but I guess it depends on how you define success. If you're expecting what South Carolina did in that Tennessee game last year, you're going to be disappointed. That's just not going to happen on a weekly basis. If you look more at that Clemson game last year and say, okay, we could work with that, I think that's more so what you're going to get this year. Where there's going to be some inconsistencies. You'll have the best and worst of Rattler. You could have O-line issues. But every now and then, you're going to win a game like that. But every now and then, you're going to lose a game like that as well. So all in all, my predictions for the Gamecocks 2023 offense are set. How do you feel South Carolina will fare this season? Guys, let's jump into a quick break. On the other side, we have my good friend JC Sherbert of the Big Spur. He will join us to talk all things Gamecocks football, recruiting, SEC media days, and everything in between. Guys, we'll be right back. JC Sherbert on the other side. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Muscle Dougie, ho. Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Tuesday, July the 11th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Let me say this, guys. Truly, thank you. Thank you for tuning in, man. It's every day is a blessing that we get to do this, talk ball. No matter whether you love TSUS or you're somebody like Brendan M. in the Big Talk Club Discord calling me a slap dick day after day after day. The beauty's in the banter. I truly enjoy it. I truly do. And it's all in good fun. I'm just giving Brendan M some hell just because he loves to give me hell. Anyways, guys, we got JC Sherbert upcoming at 1:15. And by the way, you guys, those who are not in the Discord, you won't understand what I'm talking about. But everybody has their own little icon. You could set your profile picture. I think our guy GA might have the best now because his name is GAD hashtag Kai for Heisman, and his icon is Kai Kroger throwing a pass. I love it. I love that. I love that. That is an incredible picture. So I thought it was going to be like a quarterback. You look, I mean, I guess it technically is a quarterback. It's Kai Kroger. So there you go. Anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. In the meantime, JC Sherbert upcoming. Really excited to hear everything JC has to say about Gamecocks football, recruiting, the baseball side of things as well, right? We got a couple guys that have some big decisions upcoming. Really, really good stuff. Looking forward to it. And also, guys, I'll be jumping on Inside the Gamecocks at 11:30 on Thursday. Really pumped for that to talk Gamecocks football with those guys one final time before we get into SEC Media Days week. I'll be heading out on Sunday, guys. Check in for the credential stuff is like 3 to 5 or 4 to 6, something like that. And so we'll be in Nashville Sunday afternoon, and then we're going to get rocking and rolling. We'll go live on Sunday night. I'd probably say 7 o'clock. We'll try for 7 o'clock Central, which will be 8 Eastern. You know, I don't exactly know, guys, what it's going to look like in regards to how long the shows are going to be because I'm not sure we're going to have our guests. I don't know that our guests can do that late. You know, it'll just depend. So, again, I know you guys will roll with the punches. I think at minimum it'll be a 2-hour show, though, because I would love to still do my content. There's still things to talk about, obviously, and I'll be documenting SEC Media Days, my trip to Nashville, all that good stuff. Also, Behind the Beak will return next week, and I was doing those mini vlogs, if you will, those minute and a half long was sort of me narrating the video. That's going to return next week as I really just document and give you guys a behind the scenes of what's going down at SEC Media Days. My guy, Mark Rogers, is actually going to come on the show Sunday night, though. So, again, we will have guests on at some point. We may not, though, some nights just based on availability. So, you guys just rock and roll with the punches, and we will be good. So, going to be a fun week. Going to be a lot of fun, guys. I'm looking forward to it. Getting to meet all the SEC coaches, the players, and, of course, South Carolina. Going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it. And I will tell you this, guys, just real quick. It is a cool thing when you think about SEC Media Days and the fact that we're going, not just because it's not like that's the end-all, be-all. Now we're official. Now we've made it. I think it's a really cool thing when you think about it this way. You know, a lot of people go to this event. But I would say the majority of those people, they're people that are affiliated with some sort of entity that gets credentials either way. And they pick and choose people to go. And I'm not taking anything away from anybody else who goes who's affiliated with, say, a newspaper or an online publication or like ESPN or whoever. But I think it's really cool, and I'm just really proud to say that we earned this. Like, we earned this. We took an entity and started it at zero and built it all the way up to a point where the Southeastern Conference looked at us, looked at me, and said, that is someone deserving. That is someone who needs to be at this event. And without the people in my circle, my family, my friends, those closest to me, those who have helped me on every single project, my guy Eric Reese, a guy who helps me with the graphics, of course, but everybody in my circle, because it's not just me. That's why I say we. For those that think TSUS is some just solely one-man operation, is my face behind all of it? Am I doing all the shows? Certainly, but for me to claim it as a one-man operation, I'm doing everything. It's I. It's not fair to do that, and it's not how I'm wired, right? So it is a we thing. It is a team effort, and also it's all of you showing love and support to make things like that possible. Okay, we have him on every Tuesday. Really excited to talk with our good friend JC Sherbert of the Big Spur. JC, what's going on, my friend? Appreciate you taking the time.
Hey, good to be with you guys, Chris. Glad to be back in the saddle today.
Absolutely, man. I feel like we had you on Friday, right? Is that correct? I'm not losing my mind, am I? It was Friday after July 4th. Or no, you had – never mind. I knew it. You had to reschedule because of the stuff, I think, with the dog or whatever. So
I had to go get the dog.
Yes. I said earlier in the show, I was like, we're going to talk to JC Sherbert in what feels like forever. And I was like, wait, didn't we talk to him last Friday? And now I'm sitting here and I'm like, we haven't, because I'm like, this is the first time I've talked to JC in the new setup. So I love that.
Yeah.
How was your fourth, by the way? Thank you. How was your fourth, by the way? It's been a while since we spoke.
Well, we took the family down to Gatlinburg, and that was fun, relaxing. And then we rented a UTV and had a nice little jaunt through the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, and came back to take a nap, and went back outside to take the UTV back, and a bear had eaten the seat out of the back.
God,
and,
you had an eventful time.
That's the first time that's ever happened to me, man. I was like, wow, and the neighbors actually caught video of it. It was a baby bear, a smaller, mischievous bear. I wasn't in any danger or anything, but that was one of the damnedest things I've ever seen. I was like, man, wow, this has never happened. So, but yeah, so it was that was an adventure. But other than that, we had a great time.
You know what's funny, JC? My parents were actually in Gatlinburg as well. Fun little spot to go to. I have not been in a very, very long time, but they were up there and they seemed to enjoy themselves. So I was busy moving and doing the show all week. So they were up there having fun for July 4th. Yeah. But either way, JC, again, I appreciate you taking the time, man. Pleasure to have you on. There is a lot to get into. But I want to start with this. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way, my friend. South Carolina right now in the 24/7 sports recruiting ranking sits 17th nationally, 7th in the SEC. By the way, those rankings on 24/7 sports now include Oklahoma and Texas. Either way, South Carolina 7th in the SEC, 17th nationally, 13 commits, an average of 90.65. That's important, right? 8 4-stars, 5 3-stars. But I'm sure you've seen it, you've heard it, you've felt it. There's some restlessness starting to settle in. What do you have to say to those Gamecock fans who maybe are, seeing this guy go to Georgia and this guy go to Florida and this guy go to Clemson? And it does, admittedly, it does feel like it's been a little bit of a while since the Gamecocks had that game-breaking type of commitment, which we'll get into the one that I think you've teased and sort of people are speculating is coming. But what do you say to those Gamecock fans who are sort of right now just not hitting the panic button, but a little bit on edge with recruiting right now?
It's a new world in recruiting, and NIL drives more of it now this cycle than it has in previous cycles. And unfortunately, the Gamecocks are running into that in certain situations. There are going to be some decisions that come up that are not going to be pleasant for South Carolina fans. As far as recruiting momentum goes, and I always tell everybody this, I'm on the air in Tuscaloosa, Alabama every week with Wimp Sanderson and Barry Sanderson. And I'm always on, it's March. And they're like, hey, Alabama's only 40th in the country in recruiting. What's wrong? Nothing. It ebbs and flows, and it matters how you finish up. I'm not going to sit here and sing Kumbaya and Zippity Doodah and somewhere over the rainbow and click my heels together and tell you everything's fine, and that they've gotten everybody they wanted, and that guys going elsewhere they didn't want and play that game. I'm not going to tell you that. I mean, that's losing Kalen Adams to Virginia Tech and him staying home. That's a tough loss because that's a really good receiver. Not that they don't have good receivers, but you want as many as you can get. You're in the SEC. If Daniel Hill opts to go to Alabama, that's a big loss because you need a big-time running back. And, you've done all you can with him. I think they've got him. They've got his members of his inner circle, and a couple of members of his inner circle maybe want him to stay close to home. Keep in mind with Hill, he's from Meridian, Mississippi. It's a Greenville to Columbia drive from Meridian to Tuscaloosa. So the Gamecocks are not only battling Alabama and whatever people in his inner circle want him to go to Alabama, they're sort of battling home field advantage there too, because it's close. That Meridian is the first town you come to when you leave Tuscaloosa and head west. So that's that too. Losing Liam Andrews to Penn State after I think the Gamecocks built a lead for him after he visited, but that's another NIL situation. And, he's going to probably elect to go to Penn State. So that's the reality that South Carolina's in right now. It's not to say it's impossible, and certainly it's not to take anything away from the class they've got. They've only got 13 commits, Chris, and they're very quality. It's a quality class top to bottom. I mean, percentage-wise, it's a very good class, one that can really help. But what I expect to have happen, is – and it just kind of depends on who they miss on. Jonathan Paylor, to me, is still a lean to Carolina, a 4-star guy to North Carolina. But in this new environment, you just never know. I think what they may do is if they do miss on some of these guys, you sort of reset the board. You look and see who else is out there. Who can you maybe flip from another school? And then you maybe hold back and just go to the portal. But again, the first year in the portal where they got Juice and Spencer and all those guys, NIL wasn't that really big of a deal. This past year in the portal, it was. Football's sort of a little bit maybe 18 months behind basketball as far as all this NIL stuff goes. And it's catching up. And so that's just the reality of where South Carolina's at. And, it can be overcome. But that's just how things are right now in this new era of college football recruiting we're all trying to navigate.
Now, JC, something that could certainly spark South Carolina's recruiting is picking up a commitment from a 5-star edge. You know who I'm talking about, Dylan Stewart, of course, who is expected to announce later this month. And I think if I heard correctly, he will be back on campus later this month for the Carolina Cookout, I think is what they're doing, correct, at the end of the month. So not asking you to, let the cat out of the bag or tell all the secrets, because I know you guys are at the Big Spur, which you guys be sure to go sign up for that. You guys have got the intel on sort of what's going on with his recruitment, but what's the latest? Would you say that South Carolina has a reason to feel good about that? It's obviously between the Gamecocks, Ohio State. They're battling for his services. We've seen the crystal balls go both ways. What's the latest on what you're hearing on Dylan Stewart and where he'll play? Now,
that's one I feel really good about South Carolina on, just because of the dynamics of his – every recruitment's different, obviously. And that one, I still feel really good about the Gamecocks. That's not to say at the end of the day, Ohio State doesn't end up getting him. But I believe, based on what I've been told, he has the best relationship with the South Carolina staff, players, wants to be here. We'll be back on campus for the cookout. Obviously, Carolina's done really well in Washington, D.C. lately with players, even with NIL challenges. So I still feel really good about that one. I mean, you sort of give it pause. And I said today on my show, I said 95%. I said, I'm going to drop that to 93 right now just because it's kind of like this. You just kind of walk out into the fog and you expect to see your buddies and you don't see any of them, but your one buddy's going to be there at the end, You're still going to kind of question that a little bit. So I still feel really good about that, just knowing sort of the dynamics of that recruitment. And like I said, every situation is different. So then that would be a big deal. Obviously, South Carolina, when you think about down the road, and I don't know what's going to happen with Montague Rames as far as reinstatement in a year or whatever. But you got Desmond Umeozulu there, and you start kind of thinking about the future, and you're like, well, wow, you could have. And Jason Sherbert got a few more years of eligibility as well. You're like, man, if Umi Azulu on one end and Dylan Stewart on another, that's a serious pair of edge rushers. And South Carolina has to continue to upgrade that position as well as the interior of the defensive line. And so he's a big piece of the puzzle. I still feel very good about it, just knowing what I know. I just, it's kind of everybody else that I think is causing a concern at this point.
Well, yeah, JC, we've heard the names, the Paylors, the Hills, the Stewarts. Let's switch the conversation a little bit. Who are the guys out there that number one, you feel like South Carolina has a good opportunity to land, but maybe some guys who we're not talking about, who are under the radar, who, whether they're 3 stars, 4 stars, what have you, that you think are going to be, impactful signings? Are there any out there specifically you can think of that maybe people just aren't talking about, giving enough credit to, that are still out there that South Carolina could get, that, again, that would be a really positive addition to the class?
It's hard for me to put my finger on anybody specifically right now. I'd have to go through and kind of look and see, well, like, who was interested, but who went elsewhere because the Gamecocks didn't offer or whatever. That would be that. It's kind of honestly right now, that's why I said, Chris, they're probably going to reset the board a little bit, because there's really not, they don't have a ton of spaces in this class. So there's really not this extensive recruiting board. I don't think Beamer's really ever had, since he's been here, the Taylor Edwards, those guys. I don't think they really keep a big, deep recruiting board as it is. But of course, they usually land a high percentage of the guys they target. So I'd have to go check. People ask me sometimes about in-state guys like Troy Stevenson. I can't see that happening. Braylon Staley, who ended up going to Tennessee, that's a non-starter for the Gamecocks. Jordan Boyd is a player that's committed to Georgia Tech, like Troy Stevenson is out of Aiken, that I really like at linebacker. But I think Carolina's fine with Fred Johnson and Wendell Gregory at linebacker right now. So I can't really see them going on a third linebacker. Obviously, the needs are at running back and on the D line, maybe another offensive lineman, maybe a receiver or two. Honestly, Chris, if they get Paylor and then they got Mazio Bennett, they really like the 5 they signed last year at receiver. So I think they're going to be fine there. But, would they take another tight end in addition to Michael Smith? Probably, if they could find a good one. But these may be portal pickups. And like I said, the challenge there, again, is the same challenge they're having right now. And I think a lot of schools are going to start working this way. They're going to kind of target their high school guys, and they're not going to get to that 3rd and 4th choice like you used to see, where it's kind of a wing and a prayer, in a lot of instances. Now, some of those prayers are answered. Co Simpson, Sky Moore, those are guys that were Rashad Fenton. Those were guys that were backup plans that turned out pretty well. But I think that you're going to see more and more schools, because of the transfer portal, just sort of wait and say, well, I guess we could go get this guy from 1AA or this guy from, a G5 school or whatever, and fill the need that way. I don't know if that's exactly how South Carolina is going to do it. I think they're always looking for players, but man, camp season's over. So I don't know how you're going to get out and test and evaluate more than what you've already offered. One guy I will mention is Caleb Harris, the safety from Alabaster, Alabama. He's a player that looked like he was about to commit to the Gamecocks. I think we had crystal balls in on him. They're sort of in a holding pattern for him at safety. So maybe if they do strike out on some guys, that's the guy they go back on and all that. But make no mistake about it, they miss out on Daniel Hill, man. You have to go sign more than just Matthew Fuller, who, by the way, according to On3, is now a 4-star prospect. And quite frankly, his film looks good enough to justify it. So he's a good player, but you need more than one in this class. You can't keep skimping by with the numbers in the running back room. So if they don't get Hill, they're going to have some kind of solution at that position.
JC, it was early momentum that I think set the expectations fairly or unfairly that South Carolina in the 2024 recruiting class, and especially at the end of the 2023 cycle when you sign Nicholas Harbor and you finish with the 16th ranked overall class, and that momentum as well, that fairly or unfairly set the expectation that this could be the best recruiting class since 2007 when you finished 7th in the country, maybe could be the best recruiting class in school history. Do you feel like that's still a possibility? If not, what do you feel like at this point? It's funny. We do way too early predictions for football, for schedules. We don't really do that in recruiting. And I'm not necessarily asking to make a prediction, but what do you feel like are realistic expectations right now? Like if you were telling someone this is what you can expect, like where would you set those expectations for South Carolina's 2024 signing class?
Yeah, I still think he can finish inside the top 15. Like, look, I'll say this. You mentioned the rankings earlier. With only 13 commits, Carolina is, 7th in the SEC?
Mm-hmm.
And you're including Texas and Oklahoma in that. I think anywhere with those two schools in, because those are two schools that it doesn't really matter what kind of quality of player they sign, they're probably going to be in the top 10 just because of who they are. I think if you could finish in that top half, man, I mean, that's huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so South Carolina's right there. I mean, they're ahead of Texas and Oklahoma with 13 commits. It's not like some schools that have, 23 commits and they're all, they're not blue chippers or whatever. And so they're ahead in the game right now. So I think they're going to be fine. It just may be a smaller class. And then I think the onus is going to be on what they do in the portal to fill the needs. Because there are certain positions, Chris, you can't let the numbers get much lower than they are, especially at running back. And I think D tackle, yes, it's unfortunate to lose Justin Green, Jordan Thomas, and then the one that got me was Oboko, from North Carolina. I thought surely George is not going to, go on that guy, but they did. And they got all three of them. And surely if you got those three guys, man, those are big time players, especially with the upside Oboko had. And yeah, it's unfortunate they all went to Georgia. But when you look at the roster, Tonka Hemingway, Boogie Huntley have another year, Nick Barrett, TJ Sanders, Xavier McLeod. You got those three guys that were first-year guys last year that you hope Travion Robertson get. The numbers are fine. Where they're not fine is at edge and then at running back. Mm-hmm. I mentioned receiver earlier. I think the numbers are fine there. And that can really throw you off, Chris, more so than maybe having a lot of blue-chip guys at one spot or not is your numbers. Because, if your numbers aren't right, an injury will inevitably happen, and then you're playing walk-ons. And nothing against any of the walk-ons at Carolina. I think they got some pretty good ones, but you have to have your numbers right. You have to replenish. And I think South Carolina with this class it's a critical point, especially at those two positions. So they're going to have to get something done there. I don't care how highly or lowly the class is ranked. If they don't hit those needs number-wise, I don't consider this class a success. Because I think that's important. That's something not a lot of people talk about, but that's very, very important.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, if you sign 25-star quarterbacks, what does it matter? Only one can play. So, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, it makes no difference, right? I mean, your ratings would look pretty, but it doesn't help your football team. JC, something you mentioned a couple of times, and we know the current landscape and the landscape that's going to be moving forward in college football. NIL is one of the deciding factors for especially these top-rated guys. You mentioned what South Carolina is doing in NIL, what they need to do in NIL to make a push. What would you say are the things? Is there one thing you point to? Are there a couple? Is it getting more out of the common fan? Is it getting more out of your top boosters? Is it something to do specifically with the collective, something to do with the schools? Like, what would you say is what South Carolina needs to do specifically to make a more competitive push in NIL?
All hands on deck. And I'll say this philosophically, Chris, I am with everybody that says it is not fair for your average fan out there, to have to feel like it is their responsibility to fund NIL. I agree with that philosophically. I get it. I wish it wasn't this way, but the reality is it is. And it's not just at South Carolina. You can go read. There was an article from an Alabama website the other day that mentioned the donors are not really where the future is in NIL, because what you have donors that put money in, and then it's the same 6-7 guys, but you need a consistent churn of money, because that money goes to these players, and then donors are having to do other things. They don't unless you're an oil sheik, you don't just have a spigot of money you can go throw at this stuff all the time. And I've run some numbers on my end for Carolina Rise and Park Avenue and all that. And I think what needs to happen, look, there's 16,000 members of the Gamecock Club. Okay. To get to where things are comfortable from an individual membership standpoint on just my collectives and all that, I probably need 1,000 more people in the 1801 club. Got 1,000 now, probably need 1,000 more. And then, there's businesses and stuff. And then what we're going to launch with Carolina Rise is something called the Gamecock Business Guide, where, we're going to get businesses a return on their investment, not just expect money. Obviously, they can write it off as a promotional expense, but we're going to create a hub where, the money, it's not just going for NIL. Gamecocks are helping Gamecocks. You're supporting the businesses that support this, that support that. It's all cyclical, and it goes all to the players. And I think creating a funnel like that in this market with this fan base is probably the smart way to go, because there's just not, like I said, there's not a lot of oil sheiks running around. We don't have oil fields. But what we do have in South Carolina is a wonderful entrepreneurial spirit and a small business community that is second to none. So on that end, looking for 1,000 more individuals to do it. And I'm going to beef up the benefits for them through some partners and stuff. And then looking for 100 businesses to spend $500 a month and 500 to spend $100 a month. And once that happens, and that's not a whole lot. Again, there are 16,000 Gamecock Club members. If that happened, just that small percentage of the fan base at large got behind it for what I consider to be, not a ton of money. We're not asking for $1 million here. I think South Carolina's troubles with NIL would quickly go away between what we do, Park Avenue, and then with the good work the folks at the Garnet Trust have done. I didn't mean to give you my whole spiel there, man. I haven't even talked to anybody about that yet. It's been on my mind all day.
No, JC, I was going to say I love it because I feel like it's fascinating, the business of college football now. Like I really do, JC, feel like 10, 15 years from now, we're, the way that Netflix is dropping these documentaries and we have 30 for 30s, like it feels inevitable we're going to get like a 30 for 30 on NIL, and because I'm sure a lot's going to continue to happen, evolve, change. Different parties get involved. Like it's fascinating, like what's happening, and we're actively like living through it and adjusting on the fly. And again, it's going to make for one hell of a documentary, I think, like 20 years from now when we look back at and I'm sure hopefully by then we'll have it figured out to a degree.
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you this, Chris, I was, people sort of wonder sometimes how I don't really let Twitter and stuff. Now I've gone off on Twitter before, but I don't let it affect me because I'm kind of immune to it, because I was at rivals.com in 2004 when we started, and we had to deal with message boards. I've had to deal with message boards for 20 years. Twitter's just like a big message board, right? And at Rivals, and then later at 24/7 when we're trying to kind of reskin the industry, at ESPN. Between that, I always felt like in recruiting we're hitting a moving target because the technology and everything else is moving double time. That's what my boss and mentor Shannon Terry always told me. Hitting a moving target, got to stay flexible, and dadgummit, we were, because things would change daily. Mm-hmm. NIL is moving twice as fast as that, in my experience. Like this NIL thing that it moves twice as fast, and it's twice as unpredictable, because you're dealing with so many different moving parts and deciders and sources of revenue. I mean, it's amazing. It's been quite of an experience for me, but I'm going to keep on trucking, and I actually feel good about the response that Gamecock Nation will give to all this, and I look forward to talking about it more in the future. But you're absolutely right, Chris. I mean, this is a 30 for 30 waiting for to happen as far as just, the crazy stuff that happens and the changes on a daily basis. It's impossible. It's impossible to kind of get a handle on and predict what the next day will be.
JC, let's move to baseball. South Carolina has had more than a couple of guys drafted: Jack Mahoney, Will Sanders, Noah Hall, Braylon Wimmer. Just really quickly, it sounds like that all of those guys are expected to sign. Is that what you're also hearing?
I would be surprised if any of those guys did not sign. Will Sanders actually, in talking to John Whittle, there was some talk that he may not go as high as he did, and that he could be the one that comes back to school, which would have been kind of interesting. But he went high enough, and the one that kind of stings is probably Matt Duffy, the transfer from Canisius, who, and again, in talking to John Whittle today, he's a talented pitcher. We know they need arms, but in talking to John, John said he may be like the James Hicks role, that he wouldn't have penciled him in as a starter. He really thinks Becker, Kimball, and Eli Jones will be the starters next year, and that's fine. But Chris, you're a baseball guy, man. These pitchers, man, I would have 6 that I felt could start, because you just never know when their arm's going to go. I mean, it's the dangest thing I've seen in that sport. So they're going to continue to target some arms out of the portal. Keep in mind the baseball transfer portal is open until the 13th. So there's going to be another wave of guys that get in after the draft. And then you have till the 31st. So baseball's a longer period of quote unquote free agency, for lack of a better term. And the Carolina coaching staff, from what I understand, they still feel pretty good about their ability to restock this roster and have enough arms to go to battle and try to get to Omaha next year. So it's that sport's been kind of, pretty positive as far as the Gamecocks are concerned. I just think because there's a large amount of targets, and it's kind of like real baseball. If you hit 30%, you're doing good. I think maybe some people think they're missing on a lot of guys, but they have them all lined up and stuff. And I think I would encourage all the fans to just judge that baseball roster when it's complete, because it's going to be a work in progress here for the next 19 days, and then just judge it when they're done.
Yeah, JC, you can never have too many good arms. That is for sure. JC, one last thing before I get you out of here. I want to save a lot of the SEC Media Days chatter in regards to the Gamecocks, and generically as well, for next week, because, of course, we'll be talking this time next week in the midst of SEC Media Days. Going to be a ton of fun. But Spencer Rattler, Tonka Hemingway, Kai Kroger are officially accompanying Shane Beamer next Thursday at Media Days. Your thoughts on the selections? I mean, I don't think there were really any major surprises. I am really happy, JC, selfishly from the content perspective, to see a guy like Spencer Rattler go, because everything he says is going to be, paid very close attention to. And I love the fact you get a guy on your defensive side who's a veteran in the middle. And then Kai Kroger, man, you keep the Beamer Ball brand going. But your thoughts on who Shane Beamer is sending to SEC Media Days with him?
Yeah, I think one offense, one defense, one special teams. I mean, those guys, if you kind of think about who the leader of the defense really is, Mo Kaba's coming back from injury. Tonka had a lot of big time plays last year, and on special teams as well. But he's very active. I think he's very deserving of the selection. Of course, Spencer Rattler's your guy on offense. And then I like the fact Beamer brought the punter. I mean, heck, Carolina probably doesn't beat Clemson if it's not for Kai Kroger. And I think he had the best quarterback rating in the country of anybody. So, that's a good one. It's kind of funny. I'm sure you saw the Tennessee fan tweet, only South Carolina would bring a punter. And the Gamecock fan responded is like, well, given how the game went with you guys last year, I'm surprised we have a punter. You didn't see him that much,
I did see that. That was funny.
But I'm glad Kyle went. I was asked earlier today who I think the best dressed would be, and I'm gonna go. I went with Spencer because I just seeing he and Tonka on Instagram, I think I'll give them style points, but I hadn't really looked at Kyle's style. Phil went with Kyle, so we'll see. We'll get you to tell us who the best dressed is up there while you're in Nashville. How about that?
Yeah, I would go with Rattler as well. I think Rattler's a guy, based off what I've seen on his IG, he's a guy that's quite dapper, we'll put it that way. So, no, he knows a thing or two about style, and I'm sure Rattler is. But that's an important decision as a quarterback, though. I mean, you're the CEO of your football team, your football program. So, you want to go – you want to make a statement, but you don't want to be over the top, right? So I'm sure he's got somebody helping him out with those decisions. So, we'll be fine.
Yeah, I think we were Cam Newton at SEC Media Days. Boy, that was – he had some kind of purple turquoise thing on. But no, I'm sure you guys over at BP Skinner are going to dress those guys up pretty good. So that'll be nice to see. I always enjoy media days, and certainly looking forward to reading your coverage and stuff next week, man. I think that's taking the show on the road to Music City. That's big time.
Yeah, I'm pumped, man. I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't. Never been to Nashville either. So, it's funny. I was joking with a buddy of mine this morning that I was like, man, I don't know if I'd be so excited. I'm sure I would, but I was like, the luck of the draw, the first one that I get to go to is in Nashville versus, let's say, Birmingham. All due respect, but
yeah, you lucked out, but you lucked out big time, man.
Yeah, that's a tough. Birmingham's a tough draw, man. Atlanta would have been cool too, but Nashville's like, I don't know how much better it can get than Nashville. So
I think you're gonna have a blast, man. You'll be good. You'll like it.
For sure. Well, JC Sherbert, the Big Spur, be sure to go check him out. JC, I appreciate you taking the time, my friend. Looking forward to doing it again next week from Nashville, Tennessee, SEC Media Days. Take care, man.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, man. Good stuff from JC Sherbert. That was an electric conversation, guys. Hey, we're going to go ahead and jump into a quick break, but on the other side, the Q&A Power Hour begins. I want to hear from you, your questions, your comments, your calls, and more on the other side of this break. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Muscle Dougie, ho. Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Tuesday, July the 11th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. And with that being said, the Q&A Power Hour officially begins. Appreciate each and every single one of you guys. Thank you all so much. I want to say thank you yet again to JC Sherbert for taking the time to chat. Give me just 1 second, guys. Let's see. We're diving into your questions, your comments, your calls. Hey, let's go ahead and get into this voicemail that was left on Friday that I was not able to get to yesterday. Let's check this out. Our guy, Michael, left us a voicemail on Friday.
Hey, Chris, this is Michael. I usually don't get to call in much due to work, but love listening to the Daily Crow every day. Just wanted to say congrats on the new studio and also getting your SEC Media Day credentials. That's a big achievement you've worked hard for and well-deserved. So go represent Carolina Nation proud and well there. Got to agree with your predictions. Not sure game by game. Haven't thought so much out about that, but I do agree 7-5, 4-4 on the season. And I do agree probably our best case scenario is 8-4, which is crazy to think about. It's only one game away from what we're predicting, but who knows? Hoping for a successful season. Keep grinding, bro. Love listening to you. Have a good weekend.
Michael, I do appreciate the voicemail, my friend. Thank you so much. Appreciate the kind words and excited for the season as well. All right, let's go back through your questions, guys. Tons of questions rolling in today. Let's see. My guy, Lance Player. What's up, Lance? What up, Killer? Lance also says, I hope DJ Braswell is as good as advertised. That will make things a lot easier. He says Dak will carry the load in the creative run game, but I have a feeling about Dontavius Braswell and Mario Anderson. Let's see. He also says Dak and Juju will be creative runners, but the only bell cow type of on the roster is DJ, and he is a freshman. Lance says Dak rolling to at least 4 yards a carry. My guy Lance is active today. Cocky neck gator. Love to see it. Appreciate you, my man. Got to make my way back to Myrtle Beach for sure. Bruin Nation says Hardesty should have been fired in February for having us in this spot with no underclassmen running back depth. Daddy O says whatever happens offensively, it's got to be simple for the kids. Sat got them bogged down in the playbook for the first 10 games. It's got to be simple for sure. It's got to be simple for sure. And I think they will do that. I think they will do that. John Edward, I know I predicted 9-3, but would not be surprised if it's 8-4 or 7-5. And I think it's very realistic, John Edward. Those results you just mentioned are very, very realistic for sure. Let's see. Daddy O says, I think Rat will beat the record mostly because he may have to in order to win games. Lynn Turner says, I underestimate Dakereon Joyner at your own risk. I think running back's his natural position, especially at his current size. Jeff Gullidge, yes, I will share the mini vlogs on YouTube. I will share the mini vlogs on YouTube. Tyler Jump says, I don't know why anyone would be concerned at all with this recruiting class. Beamer's going to recruit his guys. He has overperformed with guys that aren't all his. Just wait till he has his guys. Well, Tyler, I mean, you know, people have a right to celebrate just the same way they have a right to be concerned. So, I mean, it's you know, Austin Hicks replies and says people are concerned because we only have 13 commits and only like 3 guys on the board for us that are all 50-50 shots. I mean, listen, I would say this. Based off the conversation we just had with JC Sherbert, I mean, I think there's reason to not panic, maybe not even be concerned, but, you know, be very intrigued and sort of on edge to see what happens with the recruiting class, because I don't know that South Carolina is going to finish with that top 5 class, that top 7 class, even that top 10 class that I think most of us were expecting, just based off what JC Sherbert had to say. Let's see. Madison says, Dapper Rattler. Yes, he'll be there at SEC Media Days for sure. He'll be there at SEC Media Days for sure. Let's see. Lynn Turner says, Kai Kroger deserved the Ray Guy Award last year. He is a Gamecock weapon. How many passes did your punter complete? Very good point. Very good point. Luke RJ says, where is Coach Ford? I guess he didn't make the transition to YouTube. You know, it's funny. I still see him comment. He and Coleman Hall both comment on Facebook, but I have not seen them on YouTube. I don't know. They may tune in but not comment. There's a good chance they do that. They may tune in but not comment. Let's see. Bruin Nation says, they own that BS I see. Who is? Who is? Anyways, guys, phone lines are open. 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377. And I'll just say this, guys. I'm not going to call any names out by name because they don't deserve the recognition. But I tell you this. And people ask me a lot. Do you think other fan bases have the drama that Gamecock Twitter has, the Carolina Slapdick community has, that, you know, the Gamecock community has? And I just normally say, oh, yeah, every fan base has that sort of energy, has that sort of, drama, if you will. But I don't really know that's the case. I really, really don't. I really don't know that is the case. Okay. But I tell you this, I'm just going to say this and I'll leave it and we'll get back to the normal conversation. If you are someone that is DMing a person, entity, what have you, that sees the work that we do on a daily, consistent, day in, day out basis, and you are someone DMing that person directly that has us on their airways, what have you, and you are citing falsehoods, blatant lies, cancel culture type of tactics to make sure that person thinks less of us, to never have them back on the airwaves. Let me list the 100 reasons why I think they're a bad person. Let me continue the witch hunt from Twitter and bring it to your attention. If you are doing that, you are the most low-life, scum, piece of shit human being on this planet. And I tell you guys, I love Gamecock Nation. I love the people that have I love Gamecock fans in general, because even the people who dislike my content, you know, and I'm someone that I act with love and gratitude and perspective and stoicism. And so I I really do not try to lead at any point with any sort of negative emotion, bring it to light at all. But this was brought to my attention within the last hour or so. And I've got someone, Bryce, I'll just go ahead and throw it out there. Bryce, by the way, that from over at the Crowded Booth podcast, he works directly with her 24/7 Sports, CBS Sports covering LSU. We're going to meet up at SEC Media Days in Nashville. And after our conversation, he is sending me screenshots of DMs from, I'm not going to say names, but I'm sure you can guess who it is, Gamecock Twitter's finest, the Carolina Slapdick community's ringleaders, the leaders of the witch hunt on Twitter. And he is sending me screenshots of these people sending long messages listing the 100 reasons why the Spurs Up show should not exist, be canceled, everything you can think of. And so I love Gamecock fans. Whether they like my content, dislike my content, agree with my takes, disagree, what have you. The people who spend day in, day out, doing everything they can, keeping the witch hunt alive, doing everything they can to get the Spurs Up show canceled, get me canceled, demonize me, make me out to be just this horrific human being. You are low-life scum pieces of shit. And I don't have to do anything, because when you move that way in life with that energy, karma takes care of it. But you deserve nothing, and you get nothing, and you deserve less. You deserve nothing in this life. And I pray to God that those people find whatever happiness it is, find whatever outlet it is. To a therapist maybe would help. Just find whatever relief they need. But if you are doing that, it doesn't have to be me. It can be anybody. But if you are going out of your way to go behind somebody's back to DM someone who, and do that, like, you are the most low-life scum piece of shit. And I have no respect for you at all. And I don't care who you're a Gamecock fan, you're a Clemson fan. It doesn't matter to me that you rock the garnet and black. Like, you are a piece of shit. You are nothing short of a piece of shit. So again, naming no names. But if you're doing that, if you do that, you're a piece of shit, man. You're low-life scum. And what's funny is the entire community sees you that way. Flat out. The entire community sees you that way, as a low-life piece of shit. So I'm going to leave it at that. Real recognize real. I've talked to Bryce in the last hour. He's like, dude, these people are crazy. Not making any judgments. You're the man. All good. I know you. I've talked with you. Can't wait to see you at SEC Media Day. So, it's just something you got to deal with when you're in the position that we are in. It's something you got to deal with, but, it is what it is. So it's ridiculous. It's absurd. And anyways, we keep the content rolling. Again, I don't like to bring it to light. I don't. Maybe I shouldn't. Again, that's why I'm not naming names, because the people that do that, they really don't even deserve to be highlighted by yours truly. You know what's one of the funnier things too? Because again, it's funny. I spend all my time talking ball, but maybe on a day like today, it's a little bit slower in this third hour, unless you guys have questions. One of the funniest, and it's honestly a compliment, one of the funniest accusations about TSUS is that we buy followers. We buy followers. Like, that is the funniest accusation, because there are, and I don't know what, I don't want to take full credit, but here's how I see this happen. Here's what I see happen in the South Carolina space. Because I don't think the Gamecock Twitter space was this absurd. And I know for a fact, because I lived on Twitter. I lived on Twitter when I started this thing back in 2017. So I know for a fact that, like, there were spats for sure, but nothing to the level of what we have now. No, it's pure madhouse. And I mean, it doesn't bother me in the slightest, because I know it's all bullshit. It's made up fairy tale land. I mean, you got people using Disney characters as their freaking names on Twitter. How seriously can you take the app? But I think what has happened in the last 6 years is that we started at zero and have grown this entity organically to this point. No bought followers, no nonsense, no anything. Just keeping it real, keeping it a buck, and being consistent, being creative. And here we are. And so in the midst of that 6 years, what you've had is you have this group of people who have been like inspired by what TSUS has done, by what we've done. Call it for what it is. A lot of these smaller entities, these fan pages exist because they've seen the success of TSUS and they've thought to themselves, well, I can do that too. And I freaking hate that guy. So people will like me more than him. There's I'm not going to go into specifics, but there are podcasts out there that have literally been birthed out of, well, I don't suck as much as that guy. I hate that guy. You should listen to me instead. Well, that's why they don't have success either. That's beside the point. But that's what's happened over the last 6 years. So I almost blame myself to a degree. I blame myself for a lot of the slapdickery you see on Twitter. And so that's why I say, I don't think other fan bases have the drama that Gamecock Nation does. Not on Twitter. I don't think other fan bases have that drama because they don't have a TSUS. Where we become this polarizing figure where we are liked and approved, which is so funny. The people on Twitter, they act like Twitter's the only thing that exists. It's not even our number one platform in regards to follower count. 28,000 on IG, 41,000 on Facebook, almost 19,000 on TikTok, 50+ thousand monthly or 40+ thousand monthly downloads on average in the offseason. We're probably going to hit 100,000 downloads on the podcast monthly this season. So I'd venture to say 95 to 97% of the community approves of TSUS, rocks with TSUS. Doesn't mean they always agree, but finds it entertaining enough to subscribe, to follow, etc. And then you've got this 3%, 2%, whatever it is. Mark Ryan calls it the bottom 10%. That is scum of the earth. Scum of the earth, dude. I'll actually say it's 1% because even the people that hate TSUS, they don't move with that energy. Because you got the Carolina Slapdick community, then you got these people. Then you have these people who are scum of the earth, dude. Scum of the earth. Naming no names. Scum of the earth, though. And I think it should say a lot about you if you're hearing these words and taking it personally. Or if these words, I'm speaking these words and somebody else is hearing them and they know exactly who I'm talking about. If it's you, well, think about your role in society and like where you are and what you're doing. That's how people think about you. You're a troll, bro. You're nothing more than a troll. You have no value. Your existence has no value. And that's cool. You embrace that. It's fine. But you have no value. None. You're a troll. Nobody rocks with you. Nobody messes with you. If they did, you'd be doing it full time. Your opinion would have weight. TSUS would be canceled off the internet. But none of these claims you make have any validity whatsoever. None. Let me repeat that. None. So I think the drama within Gamecock Nation, I think it's very unique. I do, because of what we've built, because of the success, because I refuse to go away, because I'm constantly out there on the internet every single day, putting my face out there. The low-life scum who are too scared to even put their real name out there, can't put a real picture out there, they see that as, let's go on the attack. And that's fine. As long as I'm the one being attacked and I'm in this position and you're in that position, bring it on, baby. Never stop. I pray to God they never stop swinging up. I pray to God. I mean, honestly, guys, in a sick, twisted way, when I get on Twitter and I see the people commenting and trying to cancel us, it's like that lets me know I'm doing well. It's like, you know what? We're doing well. We're still doing well. We're still pissing off those people. And as long as that's the case, we're doing big things. So this day has taken an eventful turn today. Didn't expect it, but Bro, when you're out here DMing my people that I do business with and do shows with and build relationships with and you're going after, you're making complete falsehood bullshit claims. And let me ask you this. If you're one of those people, why do you think anyone would believe you? Why? Check the source, my guy. The people within the Carolina Slapdick community, everybody hates him. Why won't he go away? If there's anybody out there in the Gamecock community whose opinion actually means shit, if anybody who actually had an opinion that meant a single fuck stepped up and said something negative about me, well, then maybe we'd have a conversation. Maybe then. And it's okay, guys. I embrace all this. It comes with the territory. And like I said, I have no problem. You come at me. Come at me. Bring it on. Do all you can. Continue day after day after day to try to cancel TSUS off the internet, ruin business relationships, try to get my credentials revoked, do whatever you think you can do, whatever makes you feel better. But when you start going at people that I do business with who are innocent bystanders, like, give me a fucking break, dude. Give me a break. You're a piece of shit, low-life scum, dude. You're a piece of shit, low-life scum who means nothing. You mean nothing. They see you that way. I see you that way. And everybody else on Twitter sees you that way too. Everybody else sees you that way. And it's a damn shame because there's some, what's crazy? There's some talented Gamecock content creators out there, but they choose to be fueled by hate. They choose to be fueled by envy. They choose to be fueled by jealousy. They choose to be fueled by a witch hunt. They choose to be fueled by nonsense. And again, keep it coming at me. You want to say all that shit about me? Keep it coming. All that bullshit, keep it coming. Just keep it coming every day. But don't bring people into it that's not necessary to do so. Don't hit up a guy like Bryce who had me on his show, gave me an opportunity, and spew your bullshit to him. That's where I draw the line. That's where I have a problem with it. So that's where I have a problem with it, and I'll leave it at that. So, I mean, y'all, I never, ever, 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 ever give light of day to any of this because there's, to give it any sort of credence, credit, attention is more than it deserves, even for a moment. But again, guys, I only bring this up because when you're DMing people I'm doing business with, when you're DMing people, you know what's funny? These are people, some of them want to be figures in this space. Well, I cover this for this entity, and I want to do this. Well, good luck. Good luck, because no matter what you think about TSUS or me, you think I'm a vouch for you? You think when somebody in the space who has influence asks me what I think about, hey, what about this smaller kind of up-and-coming young Gamecock dude? What, you think I'm a vouch for you? You think I'm going to give a good report? You think I'm going to give good feedback? Hell no. Hell no. Because I'm not fueled by hatred and negative emotion. I mean, guys, I have the platform. I could go across social media and put all these motherfuckers on blast, every single one of them, and make sure nobody ever fucks with them again. Like, I have the platform. That ain't a problem. So, and what's funny is most people, a lot of these people, I'm going to close out with this because I could just keep going. Bro, I'm happy to not be cool in the community. I'm happy the community hates me because I'd rather be taken serious on a national level and taken serious with people who actually matter than be cool in the slapdick community. That's the problem with some of these Gamecock content creators out there. They'd rather be cool with the Gamecock Twitter community. Like, who gives a damn, bro? Who gives a damn? A lot of y'all weird as hell anyways. Who gives a damn? I didn't get into this be cool with the Gamecock Twitter community. Let me be buddy-buddy with all these slapdicks. I can be a fan of the Gamecocks without that ass-kissing bullshit. And I can cover the Gamecocks and do it at a high level and go even above and beyond the Gamecocks on a national level. Why? Like, I'd rather be respected in the national community than be cool in the Gamecock community. Which I say Gamecock community with quotations because y'all know it's bullshit. The Carolina slapdick community. It's absurd, bro. Like, I've been quiet about it. I stay quiet about it, and I'll continue to do so because this rant swinging down, the only person who wins in that scenario is the person down here. But I just wanted to make the point, man, because, again, you're coming at me, you're DMing me. I don't give a damn about any of it. It comes with Twitter. Twitter's pure slapdickery and nonsense. It's why I unblocked everybody in the first place, because I embrace it that it's nonsense. It's not real life. But you're out here DMing people that I do business with and go on their shows and shit and spewing your nonsense, spewing your witch hunt, spewing your bullshit. I pray for you, bro. I wish you nothing but the best because you're in a sad state of affairs. You're a piece of shit. You're a piece of shit human. And the next time you go into Twitter Spaces talking about you beat my ass if you saw me at a game again, why don't you just do it? Well, let's see what happens. We'll be right back.
Muscle Dougie, ho. Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back. Taking your questions, comments, calls as well. 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377 here on this Tuesday, July the 11th, 2023. Let's jump to your questions. Dave says, how about a Steve Fink interview at Media Days? You know, Dave, I've been asked about that. Will I be chatting with Steve Fink and all the Carolina boys and all that? And like, you know, man, if it happens, it happens. It's not really my goal because, as I've told you, I don't really give a damn if Steve Fink likes me or not, respects me. I don't give a shit. Whatever is what it is. But if it does happen, because I have no disdain for Steve Fink either. I think he does a fine job being the SID for them. And you know, if we cross paths and we're able to have a man-to-man conversation, I would welcome it. Be more than happy to do it. So why not? Why not? Chase said, join the Big Cock Club to get heat like this daily. Yeah. Brewer Nation says it's catching on. Even people don't care if you know that group is nothing and isn't going anywhere. They literally laugh at these dudes. Yeah. Now, Brewer Nation, I've seen it as well. Heck, I've seen it from other podcasts. JC had to deal with it the week that I was off. Yeah, so. Yep. I know for a fact that people who are, I just know for a fact people laugh at those guys. They do. They laugh at those guys. So it's all good, man. It's all good. Anyways. Madison says, does JC give season predictions? I don't know that he does. I'll be honest. I have no idea. I have to ask JC. I'm not exactly sure. Anyways, guys, our offense preview is officially in the books. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in, taking the time to do so. Again, my apologies for the rant in the last segment. Just, there's some things I just don't sit well with me and I don't tolerate, and that's one of them. I'd be honest with you, I'd react the same way if, and that's the funny thing. I'd react the same way if somebody tried to come at my family, my friends, my significant other. And, that's the funny thing. People want to people want to make out this, again, these falsehood bullshit rumors that, just keep up the witch hunt that people saying TSUS is banned from the university grounds and banned from stadiums and this, that. No, you know what it really comes down to? It comes down to the fact this is I now have a significant other. And so I don't give a damn if you want to come at me. Do everything to tear me down. Say whatever you want to say. I don't give a damn. But I will not subject the people in my life that I love, my family, my friends, my significant other. I won't subject them to that shit. I won't do it. I won't do it. Like, I could have went to a baseball game this year. I genuinely did not want to do it because obviously I would want to bring her with me. And she wants to go. And I'm not going to bring her and subject her to that potential madness where people could take pictures of us, take pictures of her, talk about her. I'm not doing that, bro. Like, I'm not doing that. So the content purposes and the content reasons, those are number one. But at the same time, like, I'm not subjecting the people that I love dearly to that bullshit, that nonsense, shit they didn't ask for. You see what I'm saying? So it's all cool, man. Hey, listen. I'm at a point in business. TSUS has gotten so big, so influential, so well known. I can't step out in public without being spotted. I can't step out in public without, people knowing who we are. That's cool. That's a blessing. And you know what? Now I'm in the era of my business. In the beginning, I was in the era of let me go to every game, let me meet every fan. And I still love meeting fans. I do. But I was in that era of let me put myself out there as much as possible. And I am grateful to say, I'm blessed to say, I'm fortunate to say, I'm now in an era where my privacy is my priority. Making content is my priority, but my privacy is my priority. And so I guess if that small faction of Gamecock Nation is proud of that, we made things so toxic that the top Gamecock entity does not even want to go to games, then congratulations. Then congratulations. I guess that's something to be proud of. I will never allow the small portion, the Carolina Slapdick community, the scum of the earth, 1%, I will never allow them to ruin my perception of Gamecock Nation as a whole. At some point when I am talking nationally and not just a Gamecock guy anymore, whenever that happens, if that happens, I will never look on Gamecock Nation negatively. But Mark Ryan calls it the bottom 10%. I'll call it the bottom 1 or 2%. I'd be really surprised if there's a worse scum of the earth portion of another fan. I'd be stunned. I really would. I'd be stunned. So 98% of Gamecock fans are cool. They're normal people. They're chill, whatever. Even the ones that don't like me. Even the ones that don't like me, that talk shit on social media, like they think I'm dumb. They think I'm stupid. My takes and like, that's fine. I'm not for everybody. I'm not trying to be for everybody. But the 1 or 2% that I'm talking about wouldn't piss on them if they're on fire, bro. Literally walking pieces of shit. So, anyways. Let's see. Cody says there's enough room in this market for anyone and everyone without having to put other people down. I play in a band all around Columbia and do nothing but try to boost up other musicians. Shame thing. Yeah, I mean, it's funny, man. Everybody can win. That's my mentality. Everybody can win. All these other podcasts out there, whether it be Gamecock or not, can win. And the only people who don't move with that energy are the people who know they're not good enough to win on their own merit. That's it. The people who are operating other podcasts that are simply saying, listen to us because we suck less than that guy. Listen to us because of this witch hunt list we've put together. Listen to us because personal reasons or trying to get the other person canceled. They just know they can't win on their own merit. So they have to do something to give a leg up. They got to do something because they just can't get there themselves organically. They just can't do it. They know they can't do it. They know they're not good enough. And if TSUS were to disappear tomorrow, they still wouldn't win because they're not good enough. You're just not good enough. They wouldn't take on this role. They wouldn't do that. They just wouldn't exist as we do. They wouldn't fill that need. They wouldn't fill that void. Britton Bellamy says, will you ever go to a game again? Yeah, absolutely. 110% I will. Yeah, Britton, I absolutely will go to a game again. Yes. Now, I don't know when that'll be. I have no idea. But, yeah, I'll go to a game. To say never, Britton, is pretty drastic. It's pretty drastic. But, yes, we'll go back to a game because, I mean, dude, there's some wild rumors out there, some wild conspiracy theories. There's some wild witch hunt type of things going down. But the band from Willie B, from Founders Park, from the university grounds, I mean, people just make shit up out of thin air on Twitter. It's crazy. People make shit up out of thin air and just run with it. Just run with it. They just run with it. It's wild to me. So, Madison said, for the pleasure of meeting you, Chris. Those who haven't, you're missing out on a cool dude. I appreciate the brutal honesty. Love what he's doing, and we'll continue to follow. Keep going strong. Appreciate you, Madison. Thank you. Lynn Turner, I'm here almost every day, and we definitely have disagreements. Yeah, we do, but the beauty's in the banter. It's fun. It's sports. It's fun. It's sports. Ryan, I'm glad to stay off Twitter for this reason because I have no clue who's talking trash. Yeah, Bunch of made up characters. That's all. It's people's alter egos, because nobody would operate that way in real life. For example, the interview with Bryce. Nobody would go up to Bryce in real life and say the things that they have DM'd him. Nobody would. None of them would. And if they did, they'd be looked at like, are you crazy? Are you insane? Twitter's a made-up place, bro. It's a great tool for content. But, bro, I take nothing I see on the Bird app seriously. Like, nothing. Nothing. I use it as a tool to grow my business. Other than that, and it's like I said, guys, it's so funny because it's weird like it only happens on Twitter, because it's like, dude, I could delete my Twitter tomorrow. My business would be unaffected. Do you understand? Like, my business partners who are paying me monthly to advertise, they're not a business partner because we have a big Twitter following. We also have Instagram. We also have Facebook. We also have TikTok. We also have YouTube. And we have the podcast. Like, good luck. Good luck. Genuinely good luck. Genuinely good luck. And Timmy mentioned some screenshots on Twitter. Timmy, there's screenshots all over Twitter. You know how easy it is to doctor a photo these days? Change up what somebody said, change up what a tweet said, change up what a DM said. You tell me. And again, this is why, though, I address none of it, because it's all silliness, slapdickery, foolishness, cancel culture, witch hunt, bullshit, scum of the earth driving it. I will let my reputation, those I've worked with, those I do business with, those I continue to work with, I will let those who know me, I will let all of that speak for itself. I'll let my body of work speak for itself. I'll let the people who know me, who have interacted with me, I'll let that speak for itself. And I know who I am as a person. So there's really no need for me to go out and about and address nonsense, because it is nonsense. It's bullshit. It's complete nonsense. And if even 50% of the things were true that are on social media, I'd be in jail right now. I mean, literally, truly, it's to that point. So TSUS I would be canceled. I would not be on the internet. Flat out. So you tell me. You tell me. Have I found a loophole to get through it, or is it all bullshit nonsense? Consider the source. Consider the sources. So it's the summertime, man. Slapdickery is afoot. Slapdickery is abound. It's just, this is what happens, man. Gamecock fans become so, there's that pent-up energy because we have no games. We have nothing going on. There's nothing to talk about. None of that. And they got to release the energy somehow. They got to let out that energy somehow. Anyways, let's jump to the phone lines here.
From
Justin.
Justin, what's up, man? How are you?
How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I appreciate you asking. What's going on?
Hey, Chris, guess who got fired yesterday? You heard about Piss Fat Joe?
I did, man. I did. Crazy. Yeah, Pat Fitzgerald is officially gone. So that is quite the swing from last week when Northwestern gave him what, or was it 2 weeks ago? Gave him a 2-week suspension. So,
Oh yeah,
quite the turn, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, Chris, that was kind of shocking because Chris, he knew what was going on, right?
I mean, listen. I'm not going to speak to anything on. I have not read up enough on the situation. I heard the hazing stuff, whatever, some of the disturbing things, if you will. I don't know. Did he know? I have no idea. He says he didn't. He's also getting legal counsel to go up against Northwestern. So obviously he feels pretty confident about his stance on things. So we'll see. We'll see.
Oh yeah, Chris. And think about Pat Smith, Chris. Back in 2020, Docker was looking at Pat Smith back in 2020, and Chris, I'm glad we did not hire him because. Hey, Chris, I don't want this guy on my program because, yes, I want to win an SEC championship, but that's not the way to do it, right, Chris?
No, I mean, you want to do it clean. I mean, there's every coach is going to do what they can to stretch and bend the rules a little bit. You know, everybody's going to do that. But, I mean, obviously you want to do it as clean as possible, not have anything that could put your program in a negative light or put what you're doing in jeopardy. So I think Shane Beamer's definitely doing that.
Yeah, Chris, I like Shane Beamer better because that way you can see what's going on, you know?
Yeah, dude, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I think Shane Beamer's in full control, man. And I think we're good hands. We're in good hands with Beamer.
Yeah, because Chris, if we didn't get Shane Beamer back then, who knows who got back then, you know?
I don't know, man. Who knows? Who knows?
Like Open Mars. Yeah. Because the thing about Open Mars, if you came to soccer 3 years ago, hey, Open Mars can win, right, Chris?
If who would have came 3 years ago?
Open Mars.
Urban Meyer. Oh. I mean, man, who knows where we're at, dude? Urban Meyer is one of the best, but he didn't want to be a head coach, man. So,
oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, Chris, the thing about him, yeah, I can win a championship at soccer, and he's to say, oh, I might do something crazy at the end, right, Chris?
Yeah, dude, for sure. For sure.
Yep. Well, Chris, what am I saying? Oh, yeah. And Chris, you talking about SC Media Day?
Did I see your SEC Media Days?
I mean, you're
Oh, excited. Oh, yes, Justin. Yeah, I'm very excited. Yeah, I'm very pumped to go, man. It's going to be a good time. I'm looking forward to it, and excited to see not just Shane Beamer and the rest of the players, but everybody in the SEC.
Oh, that's awesome, Chris. Hey, Chris, are you going to talk to all the coaches?
I'm going to do my very best. Yeah, I mean, I'm the rookie. I'm the new guy, so we don't have a table at Radio Row because I got approved late for the event, but we'll be walking around making content. I mean, I'm going to do all I can to get some questions in there to all the coaches and hopefully hop on some shows and hang out with the guys. And yeah, it's going to be a good time. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, Chris, it's not easy talking to coaches because I know how they are, you know, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, it's dude, they're just human beings just like us, man. So I have no problems asking questions and doing the damn thing. So.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Chris, we talked about Jimbo Fisher. You think he's gonna be back next season? That's to tow things around.
I think that Jimbo Fisher will be back next season because I think their buyout is so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. So, yeah, I think he's back. I mean, unless they just go in the tank. Unless they go in the tank, he's back.
Yeah, because Chris, the thing about Jimbo Fisher, yes, he won that championship at Florida State, but at Texas A&M, let me say, what's your championship, huh, Chris? Where is it?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I mean, they hired him to win a national title, not just an SEC title, or excuse, not just a SEC title, but a national title. So we will, we'll see. But I think they will turn it around. I think they got too much talent not to do so. But certainly it's a huge year for Texas A&M.
Yep, and Chris, we got another coach on the hot seat too. What about Eli Drinkwitz?
I think as long as he's floating around the 6 and 6, 7 and 5, they just gave him a new extension. I think of all the coaches in the SEC, I think Drink is most on the hot seat. We'll put it that way. I think Drink is most on the hot seat.
Oh yeah, and Chris, the thing about him, he won 6 games, but he hasn't got that win mark, has he, Chris?
Yeah, I mean he has not delivered the way they hoped he would.
Yep, and Chris, like if Missouri has no musical season like this, hey, you know what? If he goes out 3-9, how do you think he's gonna do with this, Chris?
Yeah. No, I mean, we'll see. It's going to be an interesting year, like I said, for those guys. Very interesting year.
Yeah. Well, Chris. Oh, yeah. Well, Chris, that's all I said, man. Take care, man.
Hey, I appreciate you, Justin. Take care. Thanks for the call.
Go Gamecocks.
Yeah, man. Great stuff. 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377 here on this Tuesday. Let's jump back to the phone lines here.
Call from
Peyton.
Peyton, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
Good about yourself, buddy.
I am doing fantastic, man. I appreciate you asking. What's going on?
So this is just to talk about an Instagram post of yours the other day. You asked the Carolina fans what will be the best and the worst case scenarios for us next season, right? I'm just curious, what would your best case scenario for us realistically? I mean, the obvious answer is 15-0, but I really doubt that'll happen. But what's your best case scenario for next season?
Yes, and I'm glad you make that stipulation as well, because realistic best case and worst case, right? Realistic best case and worst case, because you could say best case is 15-0, and that's just absurd. Or worst case is 0-12, and that's also absurd. My realistic best case is 8-4. 9-3 to me feels too aggressive. I know a lot of people are going to pick 9-3. I just, with the schedule, 9-3 feels too aggressive, because the way I look at it, you would have to go. I think the way that I broke it down was I had you at 4 wins, 2 losses, and my wins losses toss up. So out of that, you have 6 more toss-ups. You'd have to go 4-2 in those toss-ups to go 8-4. I think 5-1 is way too aggressive in those toss-up games. So I think 8-4 is the best case with the roster you have, first-year OC, the schedule, and that's what I'm sticking with. 8-4 with 5-7 being the worst case. Again, injuries hit. I mean, I think that's the absolute worst case.
Yeah, I mean, South Carolina definitely is going to have some luck about them to win a strong percentage of those swing games that you've labeled.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think, you say over and over again, Tennessee at Neyland Stadium this year it's going to be probably the most physical game all year for us, because like you said, the Tennessee's out for blood.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. So I'm excited to see that game, just because, we proved that we could compete with them and kind of shock them a little bit last season. Now, the question is if we could carry that momentum forward into Neyland Stadium with us, with that in mind, that, hey, we beat these guys last year. There's no reason why we can't do it again. If we walk in there with that mentality, I think it'll be a much better game than a lot of people are anticipating. But the swing games, like you said, they're going to be a pretty pivotal part of the season. If we could come out extremely aggressive and jump on some of these teams early and sort of seize control early on in the game, I think things might go our way for a better percentage of those swing games, like against Florida. I mean, me personally, I want to get after Florida's ass so bad I can't stand it, because we beat them. We beat them only 2 years ago, and we just get embarrassed last year, and it had that feeling of, oh shit, here we go again. This has just derailed the whole thing, and then Beamer turned the guys around, and I think if we go in invigorated and with as prepared as Beamer can get us, I think my best case scenario would, like you said, probably be either 8-4, or I don't put 9-3 out of the realm of possibility, simply because under Shane Beamer, South Carolina's kind of been unpredictable in big games.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I just think I think optimistically, for my best case scenario, I would say 9-3. Now, I put on Instagram 10-2. I realize that's kind of a big stretch to make, but realistically, I'd like to correct that and say 9-3 is probably my best case scenario. So if we can win a good percentage of those swing games and get Mississippi State and get Kentucky and get a Florida, I think that puts us in a better position to, say, beat teams like Missouri and put a better fight up against Tennessee. And if we beat Tennessee, later on in the season, we might be able to carry that into building 2-0 against those awful Tigers from the upstate. So that, 9-3 would be awesome. So
Hey, 9-3 would
Yeah.
be an incredible year. In year 3 of Shane Beamer, I'd call that a massive success. I think 8-4 would be a success, and I think getting to 8-4, you could say there's a lot of importance to it because it's about reestablishing the floor of South Carolina football as, okay, this is our new minimum expectation. And I think when you're doing that, that is a positive for your program. So I appreciate the call, my man. Always a pleasure. And hey, here's fingers crossed that 10-2 happens this year. Why not?
That's right, man. Hey, good to talk to you, Chris. I appreciate it, man. Go Spurs Up show.
I appreciate you, man. Great to talk with you as well. Hey, guys, we're going to jump into one final break on the side. I want to continue to hear from you. More of your questions, comments, calls, more. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Muscle Dougie Ho. Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back. Final 7 minutes or so here in the Daily Crow, taking your questions, your comments, your calls as well. 843-790-3377. Getting back into your comments. Luke RJ says 9-3 with a bowl win would be great. 10-3. That'd be a great season for sure. Let's jump back to the phone lines here.
Call from
Tiger Sports Shop.
To accept, press 1. To send
Okay, so we got people trolling, getting other businesses to call the hotline. Here we go. Let's jump to the phone lines.
call from
Robbie Davis, Zachary.
Robbie Davis, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
I'm doing okay. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic, Robbie. What's going on?
I'm doing pretty good. Anyways, first things first, why are people so dadgum rude these days, bro? Like, it's insane how rude people are these days.
Well, Robbie, I could go into a
Because I
long, in-depth answer, but the real reason is this, is that because social media has given people an outlet to be an anonymous alter ego type of source to where you can say things and act in ways in which you would never do so in real life. That is why.
Which, if you act that way in real life, Lord help.
If you acted that way in real life, Robbie, you'd get punched in the fucking face. You
That's a fact.
get
That is
punched
a
in the
fact.
fucking face. Straight up.
That's a fact. Now, I just also wanted to let you know that exactly 1 month from this Saturday, I will have my full-blown game-by-game prediction ready for you.
1 month from Saturday, the countdown is officially on. Can't wait.
And also, people that are doing these whole like 10-2 predictions and stuff, come on now. You really think we're going to go 9-3 or 10-2? No. 7-5 or 8-4 is more realistic. Okay.
Well, you know, and I'll say this, Robbie. I mean, that's per me. I could be dead wrong. This team could go. Who knows? I don't know. I mean, I give my predictions the best I possibly can based off all the information I've gathered, based off of,
Right.
breaking down, dissecting, previewing, what have you. But I mean, South Carolina's capable. Who knows? I mean, this is college football. The unthinkable can happen. Carolina could have like a magic 10-win season. You never know. So,
I mean, like, I know this was like forever ago, but I'll never forget. I was watching a South Carolina game in 2007. Then next thing you know, they put up on the screen that App State went into the Big House and beat Michigan. And just like everybody else in the country, I was like, well, this is going to be a bloodbath. But somehow Appalachian State went into the Big House and walked out of Michigan with a dub. So yeah, anything is freaking possible at this point. And we lost to the Citadel back in like 2015?
2015, that's it.
So yeah, there's no telling what can happen this coming football season or any football season for that matter. It doesn't matter if it's college, high school, or pro. You just don't know what's going to happen. You can assume all you want, but whenever you assume stuff, you look like the first three letters of assume.
Indeed, you make an ass out of you and me. That's a fact.
All we can do starting in September and all the way through college football season for Gamecock fans or any fans is just show up, support the team, try to help them out as best we can, because at the end of the day, they still have to prepare for the game and play the game. All we can do is just show up and try to help them whenever they have home games, or if you're traveling for away games, help them the best you can by cheering them on and having their back. That's all you can do.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's all I got. I know the show's probably over by now. It's probably 3:00 now already. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get over here.
I think I hear my nephew screaming. He's asking for me. And by the way, that was my nephew on the phone yesterday. That was
Okay.
not my cousin.
That was
my
not
nephew.
that was not a little Robbie. Okay.
No, if there's a little Robbie running around, we got some problems. But
Robbie, it's always a pleasure to hear from you, my guy. I do appreciate you calling in, and look forward to hearing from you yet again.
Oh, for sure. No problem. No problem. All right, buddy. Have a good one.
Yeah, man. You too. Appreciate you, Robbie. Great stuff from Robbie Davis. Robbie does take us to nearly the end of the show today. Again, appreciate each and every single one of y'all tuning in, man. Electric stuff. And I don't know, man. The third hour, very unexpected. Not how I planned it all to go, but you guys, again, roll with the punches. And sometimes there's things that need to be said that are necessary. And, I mean, there's things that have not been said like that probably should have been said at some point, but I just refuse to bring light to, or do my very best at least, not to bring light to nonsense, negativity, slapdickery, cancel culture, witch hunt, bullshit. So, anyways, guys, we'll be keeping a close eye on the MLB draft as it picks back up today. Would expect a guy like James Hicks to go, would expect Cade Austin to go. I do think there's a couple of Gamecocks that'll get selected. Austin Gregory asked, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely is it Limbo takes a head coaching job at the end of the season? It's really tough to say, Austin. I mean, is he worthy of it? Could he have one if he wanted it? Sure. But, I mean, how badly does he want it? Is it better than his current situation? You know, I think that's something you got to factor in. So it's tough to say, right? Like, I don't know Pete Limbo. I don't know what he values. I don't know what he wants to do with his career. Who knows? But he's certainly a guy. If he wants one, there are openings. There are openings. So, anyways, guys, hey, I appreciate you all tuning in. Like I said, be sure to click the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon so you get notifications when we go live and we drop video content as well. Also, subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. You can check us out there, dropping daily, 5 p.m. Eastern. Guys, and let me just say this. If someone's talking down and negatively on you, the best revenge that you can get is to live your best life, be a happy person, because at the end of the day, we all got to lay our head on our pillows at night. Whether you're a happy person, you're a miserable person, whatever situation you're in. So go out there and be a happy person today. Guys, I appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you all tomorrow.